But nowadays, most places don't even keep cash in the register just because then that makes the robbery less likely.
And also there's like insurance, so like if you're being robbed, you're supposed to just kind of like let it go.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Which makes sense. Like, I mean, fuck, like if I'm gonna go fight a guy in a parking lot over to help Target's bottom line or whoever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like, not a chance.
This scooter belongs to the Walton family. Put it back.
Or there's gonna be trouble.
I'm the fighter of justice, and I'm gonna defend this corporation that pays me pennies to the dollar.
I mean, I will protect capitalism to my dying breath.
Yeah. It's definitely done a lot of good for me.
Yeah, it's designed to help me. And maybe one day I'll be a billionaire. That's the dream. That's what keeps me getting out of bed.
My favorite quote is still, I think Futurama still summed it up just beautifully, but there's that one scene where Fry's waiting in line with a bunch of people or whatever. He's like, look, these stupid, dumb people, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're just dumb poor or whatever. And then Leela says, Fry, you're just as poor as these guys. And then Fry says, yeah, but someday I'm going to be a millionaire. And when that happens, people like me better watch their step. I'm like,
that's the whole mentality, though.
That's entirely the mentality. It's so beautifully summarized. I think about that quote every time I see somebody defending capitalism. Well, that show wasn't written by a bunch of geniuses for nothing.
They do a good job.
I mean, that's a show that actually did, like, they would have an episode about, like, scientific calculations, and then they had the writers actually figure out the calculation. Like, there's an episode where they created a math problem and then solved it for the writer's room so that they could write the episode. It's the episode where Fry's body is, like, it's like a Freaky Friday situation where their bodies get swapped. And, or Farnsworth presses a lever, and what it does is everyone's bodies gets, on, like, Earth, gets swapped. And so what the writers had to do is they actually had to create a formula to figure out how many times this swap would need to happen before everyone could get back into their original bodies. And the writers actually figured out the mathematical formula for that.
That's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of really great science jokes peppered in there. Like one of my other favorites is there's a joke about the observer effect, which the observer effect is a quantum theory that states that just by watching something happen, you're altering the outcome. Which is actually been proven, because I don't know the full details of it because I'm not a fucking scientist, but scientists have found that, like, looking at something actually does affect, like, light particles and things like that, and light particles have mass, so by looking at something you're effectively altering the light particles that, you know, act like that, like, interact with this object, and by looking at something you are effectively altering its state just a little bit.
That's wild.
But anyways,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's called the observer effect. And in there's an episode where they're watching, like, an Olympics or something like that, and then they're talking about the observer effect, or there's some sort of setup where the observer effect is mentioned, and then a race happens, and then they're like, oh, and so-and-so beat so-and-so by a nose, and then Dr. Farnsworth goes, hey, no fair, you changed the result by observing it. And I always thought that joke was fucking hilarious.
Pretty clever. I like when jokes or when shows that are, like, trying to write smart characters actually do the research instead of just. Granted, the opposite's funny too. I mean, some people might think it's played out, but I do still kind of laugh at the whole, like, Rick and Morty, like, Rick is smart just cuz.
Yeah.
He's like the dumbest smart person there ever was.
He's
and,
just
like,
able
everything
to make
seems
portals.
effortless. And then he's just so smart that he couldn't even be bothered to explain any of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a funny, like, cop out.
It's a great way to get at. It's like in Looper when Bruce Willis starts to talk to Joseph Gordon-Levitt about, like, all the time travel paradoxes and things like that, and then I think Bruce Willis goes, hey, we could sit here and write on napkins all day trying to figure this out, but we still have to figure this situation. And that's their way of saying, hey, time travel stuff is all wonky and confusing, just roll with it. Turn your brain off.
Just don't think about it.
Yeah.
If you're here to do that, then you're not gonna have a good time. Just pretend like it exists for this and let's move past that.
Which is Looper is a great movie, and that's such a great way of just sort of hand waving away because the moment you start trying to figure out time travel in the movie, like the logistics of it, it's not gonna happen. So I enjoy that Looper was smart enough to say, look, the time travel's gonna be fucked up. I don't care. Just have fun. It's a fun movie.
Not bother with that part.
And then, I watched like a YouTube video or two where they're still complaining about the consistency of the time travel, and I'm like, fair, but fucking enjoy the movie, they said. Like, we can't, it's impossible.
They called themselves out, so why should we do it too?
Yeah, the only movie that you're ever gonna get that's about time travel that's gonna be fucking rock solid is if you watch, damn it. There's one movie where they actually scientifically, like the guy who wrote it is a scientist and or a mathematician, and he actually figured out like a way to make the loop, like his version of time travel in it. It's a very boring clinical movie.
Oh, okay.
Primer. It's called Primer. It's by the director and writer of Upstream Color, which was his next film, and I hear that was very good. I still haven't watched it myself, but I hear Upstream Color was very good. But Primer came out in 2004, and it's basically a bunch of scientists are working on one device, and they accidentally create time travel. And like basically what it is there's this big box with like magnets and shit, and you crawl under the box, and once you're inside that box, you start moving backward through time in real time. So if you want to go back 12 hours, you have to spend 12 hours under the box. And so these scientists figure this out and start trying to use this box to essentially like game the lottery or like solve like relationship issues with them. And it's a very clinical movie, so I almost fell asleep, and I also was too young, so I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. But that is a movie where some people have graphed out the trajectory of the time travel and like the past and future versions of themselves, and like that movie is solid. That movie was made with the intention, like the movie was specifically made with the intention of making a time travel movie that was consistent.
Lotus Clock says, does George McFly know his son and high school friend from 30 years before are the same person? I mean...
Well, yes.